State, the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Utsev, has issued the alert on a large volume of water flowing through rivers Niger and Benue down to the Niger Delta region, stressing the need for heightened vigilance and proactive measures, particularly in southern Nigeria, to mitigate the effects of potential flooding. According to him, the 2024 Annual Flood Outlook, publication by the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, identified high, moderate and low flood risk areas across the country. Borno, Bauchi, Jigawa, Taraba, Yobe, Benue, Gombe and other states are among the 31 states listed as high-risk areas. Meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, said flood disasters killed 259 persons in 22 states across the country. Now, BK, we have been warned. A large volume of water flowing up from north, coming down to southern Nigeria. And when I say southern Nigeria, states in the south. Are we prepared for this?
No, we are not prepared. Even they look at what happened in Borno. We have relied heavily on the military. What is NEMA doing? What have they done? Are they equipped to deal with that kind of situation? When these warnings come, they are supposed to prepare us sufficiently in terms of personnel that will deploy, in terms of equipment. We need people who are properly trained to respond to this kind of emergencies. And when these emergencies happen, I want to see states helping one another. Lagos, for example, is very well equipped to handle some emergencies, because from time to time, these things happen in Lagos. Lagos should feel free to help Oyo State, to even help some of the distant states with the equipment at their disposal, with the know-how that they have, in these areas. 172 local governments out of 774, we've been told, will be impacted. These warnings should not just happen. We must come up with the right strategy to deal with the problem. Some of what we are doing now are just like medicine after death. We've had a situation in which 259 persons have died nationwide. I look at Jigawa. During the last flooding that I think 2 years ago, Jigawa was one of the worst hits. People are talking about Bayelsa and all that, but in terms of people that died, we lost about 1 million people, according to about 1 million people.
Our focus was on...
That's a lot. That's a lot of people. Death. Communities overrun. Yes, that one affected so many states. Nearly all the states of the south were affected. But what are we doing? They've already projected that 1,048,312 people will be affected, and that 625,239 of them will be displaced. These are massive numbers. I always dread the release of water from Cameroon's Lagdo Dam. People will lose their farmlands, thereby worsening food insecurity. People will die. We are just paying for the irregular rainfall that we are experiencing. Shows that we are paying a heavy price for treating our habitat shabbily. This is our only habitat. The earth is our only habitat. We have no other place where we can live. We can't go and live in heaven now. But we have, yes, This is our planet, this is our habitat. We have not been fair to our habitat, and we are seeing the effects. I shudder to think that this thing will happen, because if we've been warned that there will be flooding of rivers Niger and River Benue, look at how many states that will be affected, from the south to the north. Some states of the northeast, River Benue passes through them. Some states of the north, River Niger passes through them. Look at Kebbi, for example. River Niger coming from Benin Republic, comes into Kebbi State. Look at the destruction that happened 2 years ago in Kebbi. Many people lost their rice farms. I'm not sure they've recovered up to now. Olam Farms, Nigeria's biggest rice producer, they lost their farm in Nasarawa State, which was their biggest.
The biggest.
They lost it to the flooding. So why is it that we have not been able to come up with mitigating factors that will ensure that, yes, even when this thing happens, we limit the extent of destruction? Farmers are forced to, once they sense this flooding will happen, they quickly harvest their crops even before
the harvest.
Yes, before the due time, they quickly harvest so that they don't lose everything. The extent of this pain on Nigerians is easier imagined. I've seen flood kill people in Katsina State and push their remains all the way to Niger Republic. It can be that bad.
I don't want to.
So, 29 states, Abi? I think they said 29, it will affect 22 states. That's a lot out of 36.
That's a whole lot.
That's a lot. So every state now, especially those states that have rivers Niger and Rivers Benue passing through them, they need to sit up. Their governments need to see
strategy.
Yes, and there's a need for the federal and state governments to come together. This thing does not simply require throwing money at it, because I've heard the VP say that states that they want to release money to states to deal with the problem. You must have the right strategy. Otherwise, you keep throwing money at a problem, and that problem will not go.
It requires critical thinking.
Yes, we come up with very good ideas about how you can deal with a problem. And let us see that, yes, these are the measures that you come up with. Let's see those measures working. Not simply hearing stories that money has been released, and the next year it happens again. You know?
Okay, the Minister of Environment and Sanitation has come out to clarify this issue, that hey, it's not about the allowed, it's about climate change. Okay, but people have died. Yeah. Now, we've been warned. Where are we in terms of preparation? I asked BKB, I said we are not prepared. For your opinion, where do you think we are, the southern states, in terms of preparation?
The way we address the crisis of climate change here, we present it from government's perspective as if it's a hopeless situation, or climate change as if it's a spirit that the government and the people are helpless. But in other countries, people are responding, taking decisive decisions, creating new laws, amending existing laws to ensure that, they mitigate against the problem of climate change. The flooding that we are talking about in 2012, 2022, I think we had flooding of very serious magnitude. It happened in Bayelsa, Kogi, and I remember that in Bayelsa State, we had about 6,000 people that were moved into IDP camps near the Osborne Lake, near where they call it Bugene. And I remember that flooding submerged the East-West Road and also the Pakistani Asics. And everybody was talking, oh, we need to do this. That was around September, November, when there was the release of the, from a Lagdo Dam in northern Cameroon. This dam has been there since, I think, 1977. It was built between 1977 and 1984, thereabout. And it has always been a major problem, ritual problem to Nigerians. So the problem you ask yourself is that, what is our national plan on management of water resources? What is our, what is the new plan that we really have to ensure that coastal states, are saved from this imminent flooding? And other countries have good plan. What is the level of regional cooperation among the states in the Niger Delta? What is NDDC doing to say, okay, we want to plan ahead to ensure that this does not happen? Even the house of the former president, President Jonathan, was part of that is as private as was submerged. But you see, we're in a country that we act momentarily when there's a major crisis. When that crisis goes again, we go to sleep. So the Southwest states, what are they doing? Southeast, Southwest, the NDDC, and even corporate organizations. Our banks, our communication companies, they declare huge profit every year in trillions. What is the human component? We are talking about housing in Kaduna. Private companies abroad are the ones coming to implement it. What are they doing here? I remember in those days, private companies like Jeba Paper Mill had housing estate. They used to call it Colony in Jeba. Then there was Fujiro. It has this very beautiful estate, also located very close to Mokwa. Okay. So what are our corporate organizations doing? In Maiduguri now there's flooding. In Bayelsa, what are they doing? Just primitive accumulation. So it's a combination of government, private institutions, and also our state government. We need to shake the narrative.
We're going on a break now, but if I get you, what you're talking about is improving our flood management infrastructure. We need to...
And climate action.
On climate action. Someone said maybe we build more dams, but because there was a time you told me that we already have plenty dams.
Yes, we are not. How many of those dams are we desilting?
Are working.
I mean,
all right, but
if we don't desilt them, their capacity to take in water will be reduced.
But anyway, BK, we need to go on this quick break, okay? We need to pay some bills. We'll be right back. Journalist Hangout will continue right after. All right, if you just joined us, it's still Journalist Hangout. All right, BK, let's talk about preventive measures now. How can we improve our flood management infrastructure? Should we build more dams, or the ones that we have, put them to good use?
Yeah, we can build more dams, and we can still put our dams to good use. We have more than 200 dams. We are neither using them sufficiently to irrigate farmlands for electricity. There's no reason why Nigeria cannot generate a lot more electricity from hydro. Brazil, for example, generates a lot of kilowatts from hydro. South Africa, they rely on coal. We rely largely on gas, gas-fired plants. But we can actually do a lot more with hydro, and we have a tremendous volume of rainfall that can make that happen. I also think that our dams, we need to desilt them from time to time. Our canals, we need to desilt them so that they can take in a bigger volume of water. We have drains all over the place that are clogged, and people living along floodplains, government has to relocate them. If they do not agree to be relocated, they should be forcibly relocated away from the natural cause of rainwater. You cannot go and be building houses on drainage channels. You can't be building houses on floodplains. because nature will find its level. When you build houses on floodplains and you have torrential rains, as we've had in the last couple of months, a lot of damage will be done. So our climate action has to be much better. We must be intentional in dealing with the problems associated with climate change. You know? So I was talking about the 2022 floods in Nigeria. And I made a mistake when I said about 1 million people were killed. I actually wanted to say 1.4 million people were displaced.
Okay.
Yes. 603 people were killed. That was the official figure, 603 people. And that is a lot. And we know that when they say 603 people lost their lives, it's most likely higher than that, because we try to limit the extent of them. 2,400 people were injured. 82,035 houses were damaged. You know, when you look at those pictures from Kogi State, you know, Kogi State had the good fortune of being the confluence for both River Niger and River Benue. You know, that is where they met. So with both rivers taking in a huge quantum of water, Kogi was so badly affected. You see the flood hitting roof level of many houses. I couldn't believe that it was my state that I was looking at in those pictures. And people lost their lives, they lost their belongings, they lost their houses. So we got to do our best to tame these floods, because the floods will keep coming until man decides to stop the harm that it is doing to the environment. These floods will happen. But the question is, how prepared are we? Nigeria needs to take a cue from other countries of the world, see what concrete steps are being taken, because our people are suffering a lot from these floods. How do you work for a whole year? You till your farms, you have a big rice field, you cultivated, you tractorized your rice field, only for the floods to come and render all your efforts a waste. Nobody wants to go through all that. And this warning, coming barely 2 years after we had such a terrible flood in 2022, I think that government needs to move quickly. You know, and NEMA has to be equipped thoroughly. Both the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Water Resources, they need to equip them to be able to address this problem. Because from what I've seen in Borno State, we are clearly not ready. And I keep asking myself, if the military was not there, what would we have done? Because in those pictures, you see the military doing their best. You know, we are using the military to deal with banditry. We are using them for internal security. Now, we are using them to
rescue efforts.
For flood intervention. We need to train people at NEMA, train people at Water Resources Ministry, train people in the Environment Ministry. That is basically their job, not to attend to these problems when they happen.
All right, let's move to